Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where you explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about why most new coaches fail and what to do about it. And my guest today is Tessa Lynne Alburn. And after over 40 years selling everything from SCUBA classes to high-ticket transformational packages, Tessa teaches coaches the sales skills their certification school forgot, which is so true. Authentic scripts that actually enroll clients, because sales conversions aren't coaching sessions and you can't succeed with someone else's script, which I 100% agree with. Welcome, Tessa. I'm so happy to see you here.
Oh, yay. Yeah. So we did a couple of interviews before and now we're like in different arena. It's like different niches and getting more specific. And, that's what happens in this industry. We start to really find our groove. And you look amazing, by the way.
Oh,
I meant to say that earlier.
You do too.
Yeah. This is actually something that I ran away from, that I was like, I can't talk about that, like, who am I? Because, every time I would think about sales, I would think of certain celebrity type people out there in the industry and, how they sell, and it seems to be so magical for them and so easy. And I've tried their methods, it paid for those things. And I had some nagging things bugging me, but then I was like, well, wait a second, let me look at the facts. I'm selling 4-figure, 5-figure programs on a regular basis. Like, I know something,
Right?
right?
Yes.
And I was like, but why am I not speaking up around this? Because I didn't want to, number one, offend anybody. Because it's true. The certification programs don't focus on teaching sales. They don't even teach on anything really having to do with a business. Like, it's like, oh, you can have a web page with us and you can have this. Well, that's not a web page is not a business. And, you can be on our list of 5,000 coaches so people can find you. Well, that is not going to happen. And so, yes, they do what they say, but they're only there. It's like academia. They're there to teach you, to learn, to coach and get started, but there's a whole lot of stuff that's missing. And if one hasn't been a serial entrepreneur, then, or at least recognize that one was a serial entrepreneur, because I think I was in some ways, and in other ways I was not. I was a freelancer. So I thought of myself more as like this free agent, like who could roam around and pick and choose, but I didn't feel empowered until I became an entrepreneur. And then I realized, oh, I'm really in charge. Like, it's my decision that's going to make or break this business. And I gotta figure it out. And I knew, there was just something in me that knew I could not turn back and go work for other people. So I had to find a way to make it work and have consistent income. And I've been there, Lisa, in the beginning days when I first left the job where I was in transformational work, but and had that regular paycheck. And without it, I was like, wow, this is intense. Like, I want to come from my heart, but I gotta get more clients. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And so I started just throwing what money I had at people who said they would help me do that. And they each had, what I realized after a lot of investigation, detective work, like writing down, what is it I learned from that person? It was usually one thing. I learned one thing from each of those people. And those things have been very successful for the people that I bought them from.
Yep.
Right? A sales script, for example. I have plenty of those. Those scripts worked for them.
Yeah.
They did not work for me in there on a consistent basis. I could work with them, but I had to change them, and I had to learn what was missing and what I needed to do to be able to sell what I was selling on a consistent basis. So I had food, and I could
Yeah.
pay the rent. Like, that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, my parents are gone. Like, there's no big inheritance, okay? There never was. And there probably won't, I don't know, maybe there will, some mystery inheritance will come to me one day, but I am not counting on that at all.
No,
And
don't bank on it.
yeah, so I had to like look at, well, what's missing? What's missing? What's missing? And I did a deep dive on that, and I became an educator of transformational work. So I know what it takes also to teach people new skills. It's complex, it's layered. And then I began selling. I was like on a consistent basis because I had been selling since I was 16. And I, but it was like hit or miss, right? There was no consistency. I did cold calls. I sold TV guides, for Pete's sake, back when, and scuba lessons and all these things. And what I realized was the things that worked had to do with who I was being on the calls. And number one thing that most new coaches want to do, they want to fix problems. I had to stop doing that because it was killing me not to give somebody, advice or coaching or the answer, and I was killing my sales every time I did that. And then I would find out, oh, what? You're in another coaching program? Like 3 months later, I'd find out they're working with somebody else who didn't even have half the skill set that I did.
Right.
But I didn't stand up for what I knew was the truth, which is change is a process. And so that sales conversations, first of all the shame, the resentment, the fear, pushing, how many times we heard, I don't want to be pushy, that stuff. There's deeper reasons for having those fears, and you're not wrong if you have them, but you've got to understand that in that conversation, I consider it the most sacred conversation I have with people. And I have people, who've been with me for years, and I know a lot about them. Like, a lot has been revealed, and a lot of big, deep change has occurred for them. But that initial sales conversation, or if somebody's renewing even, that's a big conversation, because that is where the unconscious meets the subconscious, and the saboteur and the gremlin, and the one that wants to have the hope is in there too, but they're so frightened or they're so something that they override it and want to pull themselves back. So I see it as really a huge gift of transformation, of holding that call in a way that allows each person to come forward at their pace, not mine. It's not about me. And I must be in integrity the whole time. I cannot and will not promise anything I cannot do.
Yep.
And the bigger temptation for many coaches is suddenly you think, oh, this person needs, they came because they wanted a goal in their life or their career, let's say their career. But suddenly you're on the call and now it's their relationship. You're like, oh, well, I could help you with your relationship too, and then we'll get, and your coaching at your career at the same time. No, doesn't work, right? They start to be like, what? It feels out of integrity, even if you really can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Wait and see what the transformation is that's available to that person on the call, in the conversation, and then make your invitation. If you feel it is actually a fit, not just because you're hungry, or not just because you need to prove something to yourself or to somebody else, but really caring about the person so much that you would send them to someone else.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know I can think of the times in my early coaching where the thought in my head would be like, well, I could do that. I could help them with that. Even if it wasn't a match or I knew they weren't an ideal client or wasn't my like what I was
Yes.
actually my program was actually about. And like you were saying, like, yes, I was, I also my coaching certification was in all the things, health, relationships, career, spirituality. And so technically I could, but it was like I remember having that thought, like, oh, I could. And it's like, right, if you're having that, it may not be a match.
Yes. And so when that shows up in the conversation and people are overriding it, they're like, oh, well, I could do that too. Then that energy gets read subconsciously
Mm,
by the person and trust is lost. They may not know why. They pull back a little bit. And so it's really important to stay more open than you can imagine staying for that conversation so they can totally trust that you will not bullshit them or manipulate them and that you
mm.
actually care about them because they can feel it, not just because you say so.
Yes, yes. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really good thing too about being very clear about what it is that you offer, because I have that because with like helping someone launch a coaching program, like there can be a ton of stuff. There is a ton of stuff that needs to happen, but I'm very clear as to what I will and I won't do, So I say, well, no, I'm not a copywriter. I've never been skilled in that. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a sales. Those are not my skills. So therefore I won't write any copy for you. So like that's going to be your task that you are responsible for, or whomever you have on your team that's responsible for that. And then if you give it to me, then I will create your landing page for you. I will create the automations for you, and I will, make sure that it gets done, but I won't write it for you. So I'm very clear about that. And like you're
Excellent.
saying, so if they come into it being like, oh, but you thought, I said I could do everything. Sure, I can go into Chat GPT and have it spit something out, but it's not going to sell their program. I'm like, I can't sell your program for you. I'm like, your people, what you're delivering. You're like, it has to come from them, I believe. So that I'm usually very like sort of upfront with that. And I actually just had that with another client. She's like, oh, I was on these podcasts and I have these videos. And she's like, we need to cut them up and do posts. And I was like, I don't do that. Just straight up like, no, no, food and
Nope,
boundary. That's
not
not
my
my, no,
area of
I'm
expertise.
sure I could. It would
Not
take
part
me
of your
forever.
signature
But
system.
no,
Exactly.
not gonna do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So I think that it's good to be very clear with that and not be afraid of telling somebody, no, I don't do that, or that's not within my realm or something like that, because you
That's not
are,
within the realm of this package. Yeah.
yeah,
What
you
you
have
need
to be
first is
authentic.
this. And
Mhm.
if you want a recommendation for something else, here's what I recommend. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
really hard to say those things. Really hard to
Hmm.
say no to somebody, right? Especially with heart-centered leaders. And you know, the whole reason that we got into this is because we care. We want to end
Mm.
suffering. And so it just kills us when we're on a call where we're not ending the suffering. And we need to control that. So, and just really do our own inner work around that as well.
Yes, yes, exactly. And like you
Yeah.
were saying, that sort of the energetics of it and being within integrity and also sort of I don't know if this is the right wording, but like removing the desperation, especially if you're someone that needs to pay the
Absolutely.
bills, or like, you need, like it's getting to the end of the month and you can't let that fear come into the sales conversation. You can't let that come in. You need to really just go into it with an open mind, being like, we'll see what happens. It may be a great fit. It may not be a great fit. And I think you really just need to let go of the outcome.
Yes. So we all need the beliefs that are going to support us in that not knowing, right? We
Mm-hmm.
just don't know. But the cool thing, one of the things that I love doing is I love helping people learn from the sales calls they're having. And
Nice.
all right, and if they're not having sales calls, that's a different issue.
Yes.
But once they're having them, right, they got to have them, and getting them maybe over that hump, right? Like, what is it that's holding them back? But once they're doing it, then now what? So I didn't sell anything. It was terrible.
Yeah.
How they can learn from that call and taking one thing from that call and implementing it newly in a different way that will be better because they've been taught what's going to be better. Because that's what I do. I teach people psychology, emotional stuff. Like it's the fine tuning and it's the alignment with their authenticity, their authentic voice, and their product, whatever that is, whatever their offer is, right? So no sales script is going to work for more than one or two people in the world.
Right.
None. It's just not. Because it's got to be authentic. We talk about authenticity. How authentic is it to use somebody else's sales script?
Right. Yes. Yes. And I do remember sometimes doing that, and I would have sort of like the script in front of me in the call, and I'd read this question. And I was like, I just wouldn't ask that. That's just not
Yeah.
me. But I'm told that I need to ask that because it's going to trigger this emotional thing or whatever. And it's like, and I was like, oh, it would always be sort of stressful. And I think that would kind of probably come through in the call, this sort of like forced,
Yes.
inauthentic question. Yeah.
Yeah. The stress, any stress that comes from us when we're having those calls is going to be read as like either lack of confidence or something not to be trusted, which is
Mm.
worse, right? People like, not sure, what that person's about. I don't trust that they have what I need. Or, and people will make up all kinds of rationalizations for why they said no. And so when they tell us why they said no, we can't always even believe that because they have their own way of filtering it even for themselves. We've got to figure it out ourselves and start finding what works and then keep doing that while we massage, while we upgrade another area and not put quite so much focus. There's a huge amount of focus on law of attraction energy in this industry.
Mm.
Oh, just change your energy and change this, and you will magically attract people. No, it ain't so. It's just not. There's more than one law of the universe. I forget how many there are, but it's probably ad infinitum at this point. That
Mm.
there are many, many laws of the universe, and none of us is equipped to integrate every single one of those all the time.
In some 20-minute conversation as well.
Yeah. It's a part of it. If somebody's energy is negative, basic stuff, catabolic or anabolic, then yeah, that makes a big difference. And the bigger difference is what we're sending unconsciously and subconsciously when we're saying, my program's worth it. I know, I believe in it, and I know that this could help you get from here to there. We have to know that that's accurate.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the other person to show up 100% for themselves and say, I'm going to choose it, and then I'm going to show up every day doing it and be accountable, right? We can't be accountable for them any more than they can be accountable for our own confidence around and our knowledge of
Right.
whether or not what we have will actually work.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be certain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Wow. This has been great. And it's funny when you were first talking about a lot of the sort of course and certifications don't teach you about business. And I was very fortunate that mine did. And it was actually quite interesting because I remember learning it. And so, being introverted, I was very much like sales conversations. Like, I don't want to have that. I got to talk to people. Like, absolutely not. And so everything that they were teaching, I basically was like, I'm never going to do that. And then, like years later, seeing other coaches and they say these things, and I was like, oh man, I was taught that like 4 years ago. And it's the
Oops.
same, and it's funny, it's just like have conversations with people like, oh, if I had actually done that when I was taught that so many years ago. And it's just like back to you said, we got to have the sales conversations. We got to have them. You have to, that's it's all about connecting with people, especially if you're a coach, because it's all about these, one-on-one or group things. And you're going to be having conversations with them anyway. So you got to start with the conversation. So anyway, I just thought I would sort
Yes.
of end on that, which I thought was just hilarious that actually, um, that's the key, unfortunately, for those who don't like it.
Well,
So
I
just,
want to encourage your listeners to,
yeah.
if they're in that rough part where they're like, what am I doing? I don't know if I can do this. I should, get a part-time job again or go live with my parents or whatever they're thinking. To not give up, but stop throwing money at what you think is a secret solution or the solution. You need to learn many things, and most specifically, how to work with your own material in your own words. And that's what I teach. I teach people to do that so that they find the words that are comfortable, that are also going to keep that door open and have their prospective client having awarenesses and wanting to lean in, feeling safe enough to do that. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when it happens. I have seen the lights go on in people's eyes, like they're I can't, I'm not going to do it now, and this and that and the other. Okay, yeah, and staying in the conversation with them, not manipulating, not forcing, but getting deeper into the whys and what's possible for them. And then suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, I've been, people say all kinds of things. I've been afraid of this thing, and that's what's been holding me back. Oh my gosh, I just realized what it is. The power of that, you can't buy it. It's just beautiful to have those epiphanies. That is an epiphany. When you are doing your job as a coach and you're making an offer, to have someone get those lights going off in their brain and saying, "Oh my gosh, wow, I get it. I'm going to go for it," or "I'm scared, and what are some of the other ways we could do it?" Whatever it is that they say, that they get the energy and that there is something blocking them, and it's the first time they've even been in touch with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
So
So
to finish us off, where can our listeners find you online?
they can find me at withtessa.com. So, it sounds sort of funny right now, but they'll see why when they go there, withtessa.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Tessa Alburn on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So you can find me in those places. And I'm on various podcasts. I have had my own podcasts out there as well. I've got one still, two still playing. Some have some sales information in them, and others are more spiritually inclined and give a different view from the soul.
Oh, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. And I really love this. The energy and the tone of it has really been very calm. And I think that that's kind of the energy that we need to approach the sales calls with. And so
Yes,
thank you so much
you're
for
very
bringing that,
welcome.
for sharing your wisdom.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Elisa, and I wish you all the best and a wonderful day
Thank
to
you.
you who are listening. All right, bye-bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.